Grant Morrison blasts Damon Lindelof's Green Lantern comments. Well, who does he think he is? Well, he's a comic book writer who wrote a lot of Green Lantern, so the odds are he's going to know a lot more about it than Damon, which is 0. So, was Grant Morrison the best Green Lantern writer? I wouldn't think so. But between the two, he'd do a lot better than Lindelof, who... Can he write anything? I don't know. But after that Watchmen... So Grant Morrison is not mincing words about the debate surrounding HBO's Lanterns. Writing on Substack, the DC Comics legend directly pushed back on Damon Lindelof's comments about the green in Green Lantern and used the moment to call out what he sees as a bigger Hollywood problem. Creators taking superhero jobs while acting embarrassed by the source material. Yeah, if you don't respect it, it's, what are you doing? You write something else. Morrison made clear he thinks the entire attitude behind dismissing core Green Lantern mythology is backwards. TV writer-producer Damon Lindelof's comments notwithstanding, the green in Green Lanterns, green is not stupid, Morrison wrote. Yeah, it is the name. It's like, hey, we're calling the show Track because Star is stupid, or Wars because Star is stupid. He went further, questioning why a writer would even attach himself to a superhero property if he thinks one of its defining elements is silly. Yeah, that's the thing. And this happens again and again and again. How far afield do these characters get? And a lot of them are pushed way out of there, to where they end up being more stupid than any of the silliness that the comic books may have done. Now, you're talking decades of comics and a variety of versions of them, but a lot of the core remained. Just the basics that he's Green Lantern's a problem. Now, I don't know if Damon was just thinking he was being funny and cute and clever, which he never is, but he might have thought he was and didn't really mean it as a nod on it. But at this point, man, is he skating on thin ice with anybody else? He's stuck in that bubble, I'm sure, and they all still kiss his ass or whatever, but holy crap, he's not the Wonder Boy people thought he was. Those days are a long time ago. And it's just... because we see the end results of a lot of these properties, and it's clear nobody involved there respected it. So if you don't have the respect for the property, you're going to fail, regardless of what it is. And if you don't have it, you need to hand it off to someone who does. At the very least, the professional aspect of respecting a property, it's something you may not be all that familiar with, but supposedly you're this skilled writer, so you've got to study this thing and figure it out so that you know how to write it. But this kind of smart-ass approach to it, it's just, this whole thing is probably doomed. I thought that as soon as he was announced, and Tom King, I was like, oh no. So, but at this point, especially after what Lindelof did with The Watchmen, it's absolutely astounding that he gets another DC project for HBO. That's insane. Why does a writer attach himself to this kind of narrative if he thinks it's fundamentally stupid, Morrison asked. Good question. That is a lot stronger than simply weighing in on fan debate. Morrison is calling out the mindset directly. Now, they'll just say he's butthurt because he wasn't brought in or something like that. You might have something to it, but that doesn't negate his argument. His argument is sound. Because we see this all the time as well, The bigger point in Morrison's comments is not only about Lindelof. He argued that studios keep bringing in creators who look down on the material they are being paid to adapt, which, in his view, leads to watered-down superhero stories that miss what fans actually like about them. Morrison said studios would never hand crime procedural scripts to writers who openly mock forensics as experts and their haircuts as stupid. So he questioned why superhero properties are often handed to people who appear embarrassed by comic books. He described that attitude as patronizing and said it feels like some creators want to distance themselves from the genre rather than embrace it. Yeah, that appears to be the deal. They just want the stature and money. Morrison also zeroed in on what he sees as the real risk for HBO's Lanterns. The only people who give a fuck about the Lanterns TV series are Green Lantern fans. Why alienate them at the start? Yeah, look, one of the arguments for that trailer that seemingly nobody really liked is that it's just a trailer and they maybe be saving the big spectacular stuff for the show. And in that respect, the trailer is doing a bit of a disservice as a promo for this show. It doesn't mean the show is bad. Now, the concept and approach and everything, that just sounds like a really bad idea. Because that's not the high points and selling points of Green Lantern. For a Batman scenario of some murder mystery in a small town, you could work a Batman story out of that. Or some other street-level vigilante character. But Space Cop Green Lantern? Yeah. It immediately comes into, we got this other property we want to use, but Green Lantern's a well-known name. We might, do something with that. Well, we really can't afford space battles and stuff. Oh. Hey, let's just make him True Detective. Huh? Well, all right. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, that line gets right to the heart of the backlash the teaser trailer has been getting since the footage dropped. Some fans have criticized the grounded tone, muted visuals, and lack of classic Green Lantern energy. Morrison's view is that the series should not be backing away from the very things that make Green Lantern unique. And I suspect it's because they don't have the money. They don't even have the money for green paint. Look at his suit. Anyway, Morrison did not stop with the green debate. He also said Green Lanterns is simply a better and more dramatic title than Lanterns, arguing that anyone who cannot understand that should not be anywhere near superhero stories. That adds to the sense that Morrison sees the issue as part of a larger creative misunderstanding, not just a marketing choice or one bad quote. He even suggested the show could still turn out good, but argued it could be much better if studios hired the right people. Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Instead of phoning their embarrassed friends to water the source material down. But that might have been the request due to the money. Yeah. All the money went to Superman and Supergirl, I guess, because there's no money left for visual effects. I don't know. Morrison ended the passage with an even harsher shot at the industry, writing, "Hollywood will die of insularity and inbreeding." Well, there's a lot of truth to that overall. Yeah. There's Morrison. Oh, I could have had a V8. No one gets that. Despite all that criticism, Morrison also made clear he still thinks highly of James Gunn. Even lately? Well, anyway, so it's not like he is attacking the DCU. Morrison recently praised Gunn's Superman and said he believed Gunn made the best superhero film so far. Really? I mean, sure, there's a more of superheroics in it than what appears to be happening in the Lantern show. Now, granted, again, it's just a teaser, so it's not entirely fair to judge it overall. But, and again, some of the casting, like David Cornsweet, I think could make a good Superman. But that movie was clumsy, and I think it fell apart. The best so far, and I mean, you mean recently, I guess? I mean, in a lot of ways, even poor Thunderbolts was better than Superman. So, take that. So this is not Morrison taking a broad shot at DC Studios as a whole. It is more specific than that. He is criticizing the creative attitude surrounding Lanterns and the way some people in Hollywood seem eager to downplay the comic book elements that fans actually care about. That part matters, especially since Gunn has long been a fan of Morrison himself. Really? Well then, why didn't you hire him to write Lanterns? I don't know. With Morrison now joining the conversation, the Lanterns debate looks like it is only getting louder. Well, we'll see what happens when the show premieres in August. Anyway, Alex Ross already appeared to weigh in with Green Lantern art after the teaser dropped, and fans have continued arguing over whether the HBO series feels too stripped down, too grounded, and too far removed from the cosmic side of the mythology. Yeah, it definitely looks like that. But again, hey, it's only a teaser, you know. And I mean, look, Alex Ross posts images of his artwork all the time, and it's in Green Lanterns in the news, and suddenly there's a bunch of green. And of course, his looks, wow, why can't Green Lantern look like that? So I don't know if he really intended for it to be taken that way or what have you, but Morrison's comments pour gasoline on that fire. More than anything, he is saying Green Lantern does not need to be fixed by people who think its core ideas are stupid. Yes. Look, even though they wanted to do this on the cheap, you're still spending a lot of money on this property. And you're like, hey, why are we pursuing this property? Well, there's already an interest and fan base for it. Hey, I know, let's piss them off. What are you doing? How's this going to work? And he's like, it's going to be like True Detective, but with space cops, you know. The True Detective audience is going to be drawn to this? Yeah. Anyway, in his view, that attitude is exactly how studios end up alienating the audience from the start. Well, it's one factor, and it's a pretty big one, but there are others. But nevertheless, yeah, it's not going well, and it's a shame. But yeah, I don't know. Very dubious of the success for this show. But ultimate decision comes on seeing it in total. There's gonna be some spectacular stuff in it, right? There's gotta be. And they spread those out, perhaps, or wait to the final episode, and that kind of thing. But gotta remain dubious. Used to being let down and that sort of thing. So, and again, how much did Lindelof really mean that, or was he just, trying to be a smartass and all that sort of stuff? Perhaps, but still, good Lord. And it all comes back to what he did to Watchmen. That's one of the big reasons, him and Tom King, for what he's done in comics. Is, oof. So you can't help but remain utterly dubious of the chances of this show being anything good. There might be some individual performances that are good and all that, and then it's just going to go down to, well, poor guy got wasted in this crap and that sort of thing. But man, after seeing what he did with Watchmen, jeez. And they gave him another DC property. That's insane. It's just crazy. Oh, well, good luck, Green Lantern. Whoops, well, gotta update this video that I worked on. I mean, all I do is sit here and read the Cosmic Book News article, but, it's my voice and my little artwork in the corner and stuff. But anyway, so Damon Lindelof responds to Grant Morrison, admits Green Lantern joke was dumb. So, yeah, it was a joke. He thought it would be funny. But you're not in that position. And especially, I bring it back to the Watchmen series that he did, which, if you want to work with this guy on other properties, well, that's your business. But to give him another DC property, I'm like, I don't know. And even with this, I'm still thinking this was a mistake. But nevertheless, Damon Lindelof is responding after Grant Morrison blasted his comments about Green Lantern and questioned why creators take superhero jobs. They think parts of the material are stupid. Now Lindelof says Morrison is right to be upset and admits he handled it badly. Posting on Instagram, Lindelof said he understands why Morrison took issue with the old podcast comment and didn't try to dodge it. Old? How long ago was this? I made a dumb joke on a comedy podcast, Lindelof wrote. I'm not going to bob and weave about context. The joke was dumb. The fandom is not. I owe them an explanation and a genuine reflection of my actual feelings. That is a pretty clear reversal from the earlier remark that helped fuel the Lantern's backlash. Lindelof also opened by acknowledging exactly who he had upset. I have upset Grant Morrison, which means I have now pissed off most of the brilliant British/Scottish comics writers that I grew up idolizing. So there's this post, and oh look, there he is with the Lost Crew way back in the day. And look what he's wearing. Oh, yeah, the Green Lantern shirt. So Lindelof then made clear Green Lantern, Clean Lantern, was never a property he looked down on. Well, there he goes. There's his evidence. He's wearing the shirt. If you say so. But, he is wearing the shirt. But so anyway, he said the first time he appeared on a Comic-Con panel was for the Lost Pilot in 2004. And that he wore his favorite T-shirt at the time, a Hal Jordan Green Lantern shirt. For Lindelof, Green Lantern was personal. For a quiet, uncoordinated kid, there was nothing cooler than a hero whose superpower was his imagination, he wrote. He also directly pushed back on the idea that he actually thinks green is dumb. And green is not stupid. It is my lifelong favorite color, and I have a questionnaire that I filled out in 3rd grade to prove it. Green is effing awesome. Well, what do you know? That's putting an emphasis on it, isn't it? Lindelof also said he would never want his old joke to come off as disrespectful to the people making lanterns. Disrespectful to the people making lanterns? That's you. More importantly, it would be a betrayal to everyone I worked for and alongside to say anything other than I was absolutely honored to be a part of the team that manifested the incredible construct that is lanterns, because it was. That part stands out because Morrison's criticism was not only about one joke. Morrison argued Hollywood keeps hiring people who seem embarrassed by comic book material and then water it down. Lindelof's response is basically saying that is not where he is coming from. Well, boy, it sure does look different. Lindelof closed by admitting the whole thing came down to sloppy wording. I was sloppy and careless with my words. Ironic considering I care so much about Hal, John, and the entire Corps. I can and will do better to be worthy of the oath. Until then, I'll let the show speak for itself, and I can't wait for you all to hear what it has to say. All right, so he's doing a little damage control here, and so didn't really outright apologize, but nevertheless said, yes, I was disrespectful. I should have known better. I was clumsy. And he thought he was being funny on that podcast. And he says, well, no, I shouldn't have done that. And then he shows his credentials of being a Green Lantern fan and stuff like that. So will it be better than Watchmen, which he really ruined? I mean, he didn't ruin the original, but his supposed sequel to it. Holy crap, was that awful. Well, can anything be worse than that? So odds are he might do a better job here. Well, I'm dubious, but ultimately, I guess he's doing the right thing here. He didn't lash out at Morrison and that sort of thing, and recognizes the position Morrison holds in the comic book world and all that. All right, you give him something of that, and plus, no one's seen the show, but I've seen his work elsewhere. And especially on Watchmen. All of this, still, I would not have hired him, were it up to me, for any DC property. I mean, if he came in with this great pitch, that's, I'm still like, I don't know. But on paper, it does seem pretty cool. But, I mean, after that Watchmen thing, oof. So... And the telltale signs from the teaser and some amount of synopsis of its plot, this is looking really bad. So, yeah, hopefully it works out, but a lot about it. So I'm not liking any of it. Of course, we'll see. You have to judge the show by the show. That's the only fair thing to do. But anyway, as far as this goes about Grant Morrison's point about the lack of respect for the property and all of that, well, we'll see if there was actual respect to the property. Because this is a very different take on it. And then Hal Jordan is already this old, and based on what I'm seeing there and what some of the rumors are, he's going to be killed off. He's going to die in this. And John Stewart, and that's been the plan for a while now. Even before Lindelof and James Gunn and all that came into it, because they were pushing a movie for Green Lantern and whatnot. And the idea was a, buddy cop type scenario, but in outer space, which would be more appropriate for Green Lantern. And ultimately, John Stewart survives to become the main Green Lantern for future Justice League films and that sort of thing. So, seems like the template, at least as far as that goes, remained. It's just, oh boy, outer space is expensive, so let's just keep it on Earth. And so that's what they're doing. Could have done something of that nature involving, the typical Green Lantern foes being a problem on Earth. Yeah, but they want to do True Detective. But anyway, there you go. Lindelof, he is doing the right thing here. Because Morrison is absolutely right and has a point. And so he's acknowledging this, and it's some amount of, damage control on that end of it. As for what people are seeing in that teaser, well, what are you going to do? It is what it is. Hopefully, it is not a grand indicator of the entirety of the show, and most teasers aren't, but... yeah, just not all that excited for it. But anyway, there you go. Damon Lindelof responds. And, basically a bit of a correction, an explanation, and something of an apology, saying, he was sloppy and he shouldn't have said that.